Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ed DeVoe. I'm the president of the New Jersey CannaBusiness Association, the state's first and largest trade association, built to help the state establish a responsible, sustainable, diverse, and profitable cannabis industry. Before we get into another wonderful segment with a very good friend of mine and our guest speaker, I want to take a moment and thank our sponsors. Our sponsors are Argus 365 security outfit, Burton, Trent Public Affairs. I want to thank Curaleaf, who is a license holder and a board member, and Eaze, Financial Resources Federal Credit Union. Hi, Frank. Good to see you joining us. Garden State Greenhouse, Puffin, Entrepreneurs and Investors, Sheet Metal Workers, Local 19, Syska Hennessy Group, a construction outfit, the UFCW and W and Hugh Giordano, and Weeds Direct. And today, you can call this the morning after. I am at Blackthorn Irish restaurant and bar in New Brunswick. Some of you may remember the former Old Bay. Well, this is the new Old Bay. It is Blackthorn. This is once again the morning after. They had a great event yesterday celebrating St. Patrick's Day. I did see in the chat someone recognized the Scarlet R behind me. Yes, this is one of the homes of Scarlet Night television. You can catch football and Scarlet Night basketball. Yes, I was here. Double overtime heartbreaker, but I was here in New Brunswick at home. It was tough, but go Scarlet Knights. We're proud of you. So again, welcome all. I oftentimes talk about how the New Jersey CannaBusiness Association is in fact the state's cannabis chamber of commerce. And we're very proud of that role because what we are doing is in fact connecting businesses, connecting people, and making sure that our industry is in fact successful. And part of that success is relied upon by our relationships with current license holders, as well as you, our future license holders. With that in mind, I want to share some exciting news. We've done this in the past with other companies, but I do want to share with you a bit of exciting news. Now hiring GTI, Green Thumb Industries, the Rise Dispensary in Saddlebrook. They are having a hiring event. We want you guys to get this information. It's going to be on the CannaBusiness Association website. We're showing it here. There's a link that's associated with attending this hiring event. Look at the jobs that are available. Look at where they're hiring. Remember how we oftentimes talk about, it's not just about touching the plant, but it is the ancillary services. These are the job opportunities. We are so proud to be able to share these. We are in fact working on our job board. We hope to have our job board up in a few weeks and providing this type of information, but take a look. This is Green Thumb. Thank you guys at Green Thumb. Thank you so much for sharing this announcement with us. And we are pleased to be able to share it with you, our guests at Lunch and Learn. Thanks so much. So we'll pop this up towards the end of our discussion today. But in the meantime, let's get ready for our Lunch and Learn segment. As I mentioned in my LinkedIn announcement, I think oftentimes hemp is an understated piece of the cannabis evolution. And so what we've done is we have in fact created a hemp policy committee within the New Jersey CannaBusiness Association, and representing our hemp policy committee and sharing with us today is Brett Goldman. Brett has extensive experience as a policy and operational expert in the hemp industry, and just an integral part of our hemp policy committee. So Brett, I want to welcome you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to speak to us today about hemp policy.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ed. Thanks for having me. And let me just share my screen here because I put some slides together. Can you see that all right? Can you see that okay? Great. So thanks again for having me. My name is Brett Goldman, and I'm representing the NJCBA Hemp Policy Committee. My fellow committee members, Eric Axelson and Faye Coleman, were unable to be here today, and of course send their apologies. But don't worry, you're in pretty good hands with me. So just quick about me, again, Brett Goldman. I am a partner at OCan Group. We provide strategic consulting services for companies in the cannabis and hemp space. My partners and I are former founders of a company called GenCanna. We were once the largest producer of hemp and CBD in North America, and now we're offering our services to the rest of the industry. I have about 15 years experience in government affairs. I'm a former lobbyist with Dwayne Morris Government Strategies, and shout out to my former boss, Dom. He's, I believe he's on the call right now. And for the last 7 years, I've been on a mission to create global access to cannabinoids. My team, we were founding members of the U.S. Hemp Roundtable, which is one of the largest industry associations for the hemp industry. I am also a member of the technical committee for the U.S. Hemp Authority, which is the first self-regulatory organization in the cannabis space. And I also, at the moment, advise an organization called Focus, the Foundation of Cannabis Unified Standards, as well as I sit on the board for the Global Hemp Association, the Hemp Feed Coalition, and the Pennsylvania Hemp Steering Committee. So I have my hands in a number of different states, and been doing this a long time and really feel strongly about the hemp industry. So the viewer maybe, or I assume you're familiar with the the evolution of cannabis over the last several years. New Jersey has kind of been one of those jurisdictions that probably should have legalized a few years before we have, but here we are, and we're on the cusp of having one of the largest markets in the country, and being on the border of New York and Pennsylvania, and really in the middle of all of this exciting legalization happening in the U.S., we're going to be a significant market. And as that being said, we can't forget about the hemp industry. So briefly, hemp was first legalized in the 2014 Farm Bill, Section 7606. Which allowed for hemp to be an agricultural commodity, and for the first time provided definition for federally legal cannabis. So Section 7606 was very, very short, very simple, and it defined hemp and allowed for states to pass legislation for farmers to cultivate hemp regulated under their state Department of Agriculture or a land-grant university. Between 2014 and 2018, there were a number of positive developments with rulemaking and legislation that included the USDA Statement of Principles and appropriation language that clearly allowed for the interstate commerce and early commercialization of hemp. So a big differentiator for the hemp industry as opposed to the rest of cannabis is that from 2015 or so, the hemp industry was allowed to sell products between states. So we'll get into what that all means in a moment. But the 2014 Farm Bill was wildly successful. Farmers from across the country signed up in droves to learn about hemp across 24 states or so. That really led the charge for the early successful programs. And Congress heard this, and in 2018, the 2018 Farm Bill fully legalized the production of hemp and called for the USDA and the FDA to issue regulations for hemp and hemp-derived products. In the fall of 2019, the USDA issued the interim final rule for hemp production. And this was the first federal framework for cannabis. So while all of these states have legalized medical marijuana or recreational marijuana, hemp is different because it has a federal it's recognized federally and legalized federally. The USDA worked very closely with my team and many others around the country to understand best practices and collect as much data as they could, so they could get their arms around it and figure out how do we actually regulate this stuff. So they issued their interim final rule in October of 2019, and by of course, the pandemic happened, and we kind of lost some time there. But in January of 2021, just a little over a year ago, the final rule for hemp production was released, and that took effect last March. So at this time, over 60 states and territories and tribes have had their hemp plans reviewed and approved by the USDA. And we don't have enough time to dive into all the testing requirements and whatnot that come with the final rule. But I'm happy to answer some questions, and in the interest of time, I'm going to keep moving forward. So one of the things that came with the legalization of hemp was a proliferation of CBD products around the country. So I want to say this with a caveat that CBD and most cannabis products are not yet approved by the FDA. There is currently one CBD product that has been approved by the FDA, and that is a pharmaceutical called Epidiolex. It's produced by GW Pharmaceuticals. And I will tell you that there is almost no difference between a bottle of Epidiolex and most of the CBD products that you can buy over the counter. Epidiolex has been through clinical trials, and but it's not produced here in the US. It's made in a greenhouse from greenhouse-grown cannabis in the UK, but there's very little difference between that formulation and most of the products that you can find out on the market right now. That being said, there's dozens, hundreds of CBD brands that are out there, and some of them are very good. Some of them are made with current good manufacturing processes or practices, but others are not. They're made in basements, they're made in barns, and sometimes what's on the label isn't actually what's in the bottle. So if you are enjoying the CBD product, make sure you know your source. And if you're selling CBD products, be very careful about how you're selling it, because the FDA, who has not yet issued a regulatory framework for CBD products, is actively looking for companies that are making medical claims, that are making unsubstantiated medical claims, and they will issue warning letters. They will go through social media, they will go through marketing materials, and they will find you. And if you have questions or have doubts about how you're selling your CBD product, there are some great resources available to make sure that you're not, walking into any areas of issue. That being said, there have been a number of states that have allowed for CBD products and other cannabinoids to be considered a food or beverage or dietary supplement ingredient. California is a great example of this. The other states are taking this seriously and using it as a means for their farmers to have a market for these products. But there's still a lot of work to do, and we'll get into some of those issues a little further ahead. So I do want to spend some time talking about the hemp industry in New Jersey. The New Jersey Hemp Farming Act was enacted in August of 2019. There was a precursor piece of legislation that went through the Assembly and was passed in the Assembly, but getting a hemp program online didn't actually happen until after the 2018 Farm Bill was passed. That legislation was driven by folks like Declan O'Scanlan in Monmouth County, and really the idea is to give farmers another crop in their rotation and give them something else to be successful for. So the New Jersey Hemp Farming Act was in compliance with the 2018 Farm Bill. And in December of 2019, New Jersey was among the first 3 states in the country to have their hemp program approved by the USDA. What does that mean? It doesn't mean much, but it's a good bragging point, and something I guess New Jersey should be proud of. So over the last 3 years, there have been the hemp program has continued to operate. In 2020, there were 59 growers permitted with 449 acres outdoor and 58 indoor acres. Now, hemp, being that it is a agricultural commodity, should be grown outdoors on farms as opposed to in greenhouses or warehouses or however the rest of cannabis is being produced. And that makes a world of difference. That allows for hemp to scale. Personally, I've been responsible for over 10,000 acres of hemp being permitted in Kentucky and half a dozen other states. New Jersey, still has a lot of room to grow. And New Jersey, being the garden state, should be a leader in the hemp industry. We've still got a lot of work to do. In 2022, there were 17. Up to now in 2022, there have been 17 growers permitted with 139 acres for outdoor cultivation and 14 indoor acres for cultivation. This is going to continue to evolve as cannabis in New Jersey continues to evolve. Some of the things that we are expecting in the future, and I'll get into what our committee's priorities are sales into the MMJ and rec ecosystems, promotion by the Department of Agriculture for hemp that's produced in New Jersey, interstate commerce for hemp and maybe some other forms of cannabis, and a evolving regulatory frameworks. Ed's laughing because I am a firm believer that in order for this program, the rec program here in New Jersey, to be successful, we're going to have to lean on hemp producers at some point, or we're going to have to lean on the supply chain from other states. I know this is still kind of a taboo subject, but it's coming, and we're going to have to get comfortable with this conversation. So our committee has identified 4 areas that we see as priority for 2022. You can see it on the screen, but I'm going to dive into these. So the first and largest priority for us is to see the A1684, the Quijano hemp-derived cannabinoids in food bill passed. So what this bill would do would create a path for hemp-derived cannabinoids like CBD to be considered a food, beverage, or dietary supplement ingredient. This is in line with what many other states are doing, and it would take precedent over the FDA's inaction in defining hemp or other cannabinoids as a food, beverage, or dietary supplement ingredient. Our second priority is to allow for the CRC to accept hemp raw materials and or ingredients like cannabinoids into the rec and MMJ ecosystems. This is similar, I suggested a copy and paste, but maybe they'll do that. A copy and paste of what the New York State cannabis regulator recently allowed for to jumpstart their supply chain. So they are allowing for hemp farmers to simply sell their products to cannabis processors. Now that could come in the form of raw material, or like hemp biomass, or again for already formulated ingredients. And we think that this would be a real solid opportunity for farmers in New Jersey and maybe elsewhere. Our third priority is new legislation or regulation to address minor and synthetic cannabinoids that are sold outside of the regulated ecosystem. So things like Delta 8 THC, Delta 10 THC, HHC, THCP, THCO, and hemp-derived Delta 9 THC. We don't have enough time to dive into what all of these things mean, but let's just say that they are being sold outside of the regulated ecosystem, and they have the potential to ruin it for everybody. And our fourth priority is more robust testing standards for the entire cannabis ecosystem in New Jersey. There's a lot of work that needs to be done here, and there's a lot of it's going to take some time to evolve. So I know we're getting close to the end. So I want to I don't want to gloss over this, and I think it's important to just state the fact: Delta 8 and other psychoactive THC derivatives like Delta 6, Delta 9, Delta 10, THCP are not federally legal. There's a debate going on in policy circles for the last year and change that the 2018 Farm Bill allows for the sale of everything but Delta 9 THC. While that may be true, the congressional intent of the 2018 Farm Bill was not to allow for a side market of Delta 8 and other psychoactive cannabinoids that are not Delta 9 THC. Again, I could spend several hours talking about this, but in the interest of time, we're going to just hop forward. So look, there's a lot of work to do in the future. Federal legalization will happen someday. It's not happening yet, and hopefully the FDA will get their act together and release this long-awaited regulatory framework. But they may not, and it may take some more time. I would say keep waiting and focus on what's happening here in New Jersey. There is a lot of potential for hemp as an animal feed, both under the FDA Center for Veterinary Medicine and the American Association for Feed Control Officials. Again, there's a very deep policy debate happening right now as to how that's going to happen and what that's going to look like. And there's been some groups that have been working for several years now to allow for this, allow for hemp to be fed to animals. The hemp fiber market is growing. The minor and synthetic cannabinoid market is growing. The vape industry is evolving. And there's a lot of really cool things happening on the international front that I wish we had some more time to talk about. So I'm going to stop here and allow for some Q&A. And it looks like there's some questions that are in the chat. So Ed, I'll hand it over to you, and let's answer some questions.
Great, Brett, thank you so much. That was extremely informative. So the number one question is, well, look, this is your information. Do you want to post it on the CannaBusiness Association website? How can we make this slideshow available for those people that are really interested in this information?
I'm happy to share a copy of the deck with you.
Great.
Sure.
Great. So we'll figure out a way to present it either through the CannaBusiness Association. Well, somehow we'll do it. So thank you. And folks, thank you for your question requesting the slide presentation. Brett, it's funny. I was joking early on when I got into this industry that there are two things you don't buy from a gas station. That's hot dogs and CBD.
That's right.
So
and you can buy hot dogs at Wawa.
So if you could a little bit more about the issue of safety and why it's a huge concern.
Right. So look, because there is not a federal regulation. Oh yeah, it's sushi. Because there is not a federal regulation for cannabinoid products yet, there are the quality, the types of products that you can get, and the quality varies from amazing CGMP produced products to stuff that's made with a crude extraction and could have harmful additives or chemicals in it. So look, if you buy CBD at a gas station, make sure you know the brand, make sure you know the source, make sure you look at a COA or a certificate of analysis. And if it's a reputable brand, if it's something that you've had, multiple times and you can vouch for it, great. But a majority of the products that are sold at gas stations and convenience stores are not what they say they are. There was a study that was released I think it was last week, there was a study that was released of products being sold in upstate New York, CBD products being sold in upstate New York, or I'm sorry, Delta-8 THC products being sold in upstate New York. None of them actually had Delta-8 THC in them. They had other cannabinoids, other formulations. It wasn't what it said it was on the label, and this is a real problem. There are plenty of places that you can buy CBD in a mainstream way, from the grocery store to the vitamin shop. Plenty of reputable places sell CBD products, and that's great. But until there is a established pathway through the FDA, and it's really hit or miss what you're going to get. Or you can buy CBD products at a dispensary, and what you're buying in the MMJ or the rec dispensary when they open has to go through stringent testing, in order to reach the shelves. And most of those places can handle the recall. If any of those CBD products that you're buying in the gas station were recalled tomorrow, I don't know that those companies would be able to handle that. So know your source, know where it's coming from, and unfortunately, you have to be a little bit selective right now on what you're buying and what you're ingesting. So
last question. Looking at the industry, and we're going to say that hemp and cannabis are not competing industries, but based on your experience, if someone were considering to get into, let's say, in the broad sense, the cannabis industry, how viable is the hemp business to say, hey, look, maybe I won't do cannabis and THC producing products. Maybe I'll get into hemp. How viable would that be for someone who's looking to get into something different or new?
So look, hemp and the rest of cannabis are complementary to one another, and full stop. So if you're looking at getting into this industry, and the thing that I tell people that are interested in getting into this industry all the time is either don't, or if you're going to do it, know your risk and understand that it's a new industry, and that there are still a lot of things that are being figured out. And it's also something that is going from the black market to a regulated market. We're seeing this happen across the world. Look, getting into the cannabis space isn't for everybody. We know that. But what the hemp industry has that I think the rest of cannabis doesn't is a much lower barrier to entry. So if you are a farmer, or you have access to farmland, or understand the agricultural side of this business, that's great. If you want to get into processing cannabinoids, great. Hopefully in the future that those products and those ingredients will be able to be sold from a farmer in New Jersey to a dispensary in New Jersey, or a cannabis processor in New Jersey. But there's still a lot of work to do, and there's still a lot of uncertainty. A lot of farmers and a lot of individuals got into this industry, in following the passage of the 2018 Farm Bill. They saw an opportunity. Look at the numbers of hemp that were produced in 2019, and in 2020, and that number has gone down because the price of CBD has gone down, because there's more CBD that's available on the market, because minor and synthetic cannabinoids derived from hemp are now reaching the market and being made at scale. There are plenty of opportunities in that regard. But just like anything, know your risk, know your partners, know where your products are coming from, and be able to audit your supply chain, because that's really what's going to be the differentiator. And when the CPG industry and the CPG sector, the consumer packaged goods sector shows up, so mainstream food, mainstream agriculture, mainstream, products, they're going to be looking for material that is of the highest quality and can stand up against a recall. If you're not trying to stand your business up against a recall, that's problematic. So that's a long-winded way of saying there are plenty of opportunities in the hemp industry, and there's a lower barrier to entry, but it's not as easy as just showing up and putting some seeds in the ground. You actually have to know how to cultivate this stuff, and actually have to identify your market post-harvest. So again, I could talk about this for hours, but I know we're kind of running out of time. So one more question, Ed?
Actually, I was going to wrap it up. I was going to thank, I didn't see too many questions, but Brett, we'll definitely have you back as the Hemp Policy Committee continues to develop its rapport with the CRC. I want you guys for creating 2 documents that have gone to the CRC for their consideration. So everyone, thank Brett Goldman, hemp policy and operational expert, part of the New Jersey CannaBusiness Association Hemp Policy Committee. Brett, thank you so much for joining us today. I want to thank Blackthorn Irish Restaurant and Pub. By the way, are we still the home of the $5 Jameson? So they are still home. No. Oh, no. So no, it is no longer home of the $5 Jameson all day. But anyway, make your way down here, watch some college hoops, watch March Madness. And by the way, you didn't hear this from me. It does have a patio. It does have outdoor seating. I happen to be a cigar fan. So that's where I go. And I want to thank our sponsors. Argus 365, a security firm, Burton, Trent Public Affairs, Curaleaf, current license holder, as well as a member of our board. Eaze, Financial Resources, Federal Credit Union. Frank, thank you for joining us today, and we'll be hearing from Frank Almeida in the near future. Garden State Greenhouse, Puffin Entrepreneurs and Investors, Sheet Metal Workers, Local 19, Syska Hennessy Group, a construction outfit, the UFCW and Hugh Giordano, and Weeds Direct. Brett, thank you once again. Thank you,
absolutely,
you guys for having us. And everyone, take care until the next Lunch and Learn.